Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. This video is going to be about some of the narcissists' biggest fears and some of our biggest fears. Three of the fears. Fear is a universal emotion that everybody has, and we can all fear different things. So this is just the perception or theories based on three fears that many narcissistic people can have, and many survivors of narcissistic abuse can also have, and the meaning behind those fears and ways we can step over and overcome our fears. Thank you very much to all the returning subscribers. If you are new to the channel, this channel is about the narcissist personality disorder, to give people more understanding of what they might have been through throughout their life, how to handle narcissistic people if you cannot go no contact with them, and different methods to find what works for you to recover from narcissistic abuse. If you do find the information on the channel helpful, please do subscribe. So fear is an emotion that many people have in life. There's one thing we can be certain of, is that we will all pass at some point within our life, yet we often don't run around fearing death on a continuous basis. We just accept that that is a part of life. And when in a narcissistic relationship, we can develop trauma bonding, attachment trauma, and just get to the point where we accept that is just a way of life, not realizing that there is a much better way to live our lives. And often that is from the manipulation, the many manipulation methods that a narcissist uses on us, from the love bombing to the idealization, to the devaluation, to the discard, the hoover, the smear campaigns, back to love bombing, idealization. And while ever we stay in that pattern, not realizing what's happening to us, because it's difficult to see what we don't know, we continue getting hurt. When it comes to fear, we can develop anger, which is an intense emotional state. The majority of a narcissist's fears would often stem from some form of anger or resentment, why they can be quite envious of other people and often seek revenge in one way or another. If they don't feel like their needs are getting met, or they can't find somebody to meet their needs, they often do seek revenge. A narcissist is usually connected to their shadow side in some way, so that some are aware, some are not so aware, so they can seemingly rage for apparently no reason whatsoever. And we can develop a lot of anger around narcissistic people when we are baited, when we are provoked, when we are exploited, taken advantage of, hurt, criticised, judged on a continued basis. When we keep getting that trauma time and time again, we can then turn to anger. We can then also lash out. Our fear most often around a narcissist causes anxiety within us, as much as people have their limits. So the majority of people in or around narcissistic people, in a narcissistic relationship or around narcissistic people, the majority of people will end up with symptoms of anxiety, where they feel unease, where they feel untrusting of others, where they're in a state of panic, where they can get headaches and stomach aches, overwhelmed, worry, stress. And narcissistic people are very good at setting the environment to cause those symptoms in you through their gaslighting, their projection, their blame shifting, their silent treatment, so that we end up walking on eggshells around them. And it is fear provoking. It's also very anxiety provoking and anxiety triggering. Again, people have their limits. So even if you are living in fear around a narcissist, we can get that where we become brave, and one way to step over fear is by becoming brave. But around narcissistic people, we do have to be careful and become brave in the right way by finding a safe way out. When we are being provoked that much, when we are living in a state of fear, when we are feeling emotions such as anger and resentment, people can snap. It does not make it right. There is reasons behind certain behaviour, and there is also excuses behind certain behaviour. There is a reason behind people who are being a victim of psychological abuse that might lash out of their character, especially when someone is continuously lashing out at them, that sort of learned behaviour. With a narcissist, it might have been triggered in the same way in early childhood, but they still have a choice. When people's intentions, when someone lashes out, they would often feel guilt, remorse, understand the error of their ways, understand the mistake they've made, and work harder to not do it again and to make it up to the person they've hurt. With a narcissist, they shift the blame and take no responsibility for their actions. And this is where the intentions and the awareness of behaviour plays a massive role into the difference between a narcissist and someone that's just been traumatised by a narcissist. So one of a narcissist, the majority of narcissistic people, one of their biggest fears is to be abandoned, because they get their supply from people. As we breathe air to fill our lungs, they get their supply of emotions from other people. They lack the empathy to genuinely care and connect with other people. When you're struggling to connect with people, you're relying on getting that energy almost from other people to gain those feelings within yourself. So a lot of narcissistic people fear abandonment, which is often why they manipulate in so many ways to create that ideal. They are preoccupied with the ideal also, so they will create that ideal with someone because they're preoccupied with gaining that ideal, gaining the attention, getting their needs met, exploiting people to get their needs met. So they don't mind if that's their ideal in the moment, but 6 months later it's not their ideal, so they'll just discard and move on. When it comes to a narcissist, they will create that ideal, and if it's not going their way, they will devalue people. Also, as a method of gaining control of that person, because as much as a narcissist fears abandonment, they don't mind abandoning someone if they don't feel like their supply is being met, and moving on to someone who they can manipulate and gain their supply from. A narcissist supply is a narcissist needing excessive attention from people. They need to get that substance drawn from other people. Things that the majority of humans' requirements, needs are certainty, uncertainty, variety, love and connection, growth, significance. And these are human needs discovered by Tony Robbins, I believe. And we can gain these in a positive way, helping others, contributing to others, learning new things for growth, feeling significant because we are contributing in a healthy way to other people, certainty, creating those routines, variety, trying new hobbies, trying out new things. Narcissistic people meet this in a negative way. They crave certainty and fear abandonment, so they gain that certainty by trying to control people, but they also fear exposure, which I'll go into in a minute. They like variety, but they do this often by extramarital affairs and creating that sort of, when it comes to uncertainty, creating that danger of that danger zone. But they don't want to get caught out because they don't want to be abandoned and they don't want to be be perceived by others as a bad light. They feel entitled to do as they please. They lack the empathy to care about hurting others, but they want their needs to be met. That self-entitled hypocrite where it's one rule for you and another for them. You are always going to feel unsettled and unjust and unjustly treated and unhappy around a narcissist because they're allowed to do stuff that to them you are not, and you wouldn't treat someone in a way that they will. They only contribute if it's to meet a need of their own, and their love and connection doesn't come from the same place as our love and connection comes from, where we're looking for compassion and understanding and willingness to learn about each other. They're looking to get their needs met. Now, we can think that we fear abandonment when often it's we fear leaving. We've often been isolated from all support and narcissist manipulation method to gain that control. When isolated from support, it can feel like a very lonely place to be. When we are struggling with things like CPTSD, anxiety, ruminating, codependence. So we might be struggling to sleep at night and we are drained, we are isolated, we are feeling alone with the person we once emotionally connected to and are still emotionally connected to, that we believed cared about us, is the very person hurting us the most. So we can have that constant ruminating of overthinking of what's happening, what it was like in the past when we first met them, how we can get that back, how we can work harder to change, mistakes we've made, how do we leave, what about the children, and those constant thought processes that keep us trapped in a very uncomfortable place. A narcissist in one way trains us up to be codependent. They project that side, that fear of abandonment within them. They project that into us. They mirror us in the idolization. Well, they mirror us in the love bombing stage of the relationship. So they collect that data and sell back to us exactly what we want to hear. So we build that emotional connection with them, that emotional bond with them, not understanding that they're not coming from the same place that we are. They then slowly devalue us to create that codependency, to create those feelings of fear and anxiety, and almost push their fear of abandonment into us, where we fear being alone because we've been isolated from support. So they will devalue us, they will criticise us, anything negative they feel in themselves, they will put us down. They are incredibly envious, so they don't want to see us doing better than them, so they are going to tear us down in order to feel better within themselves, to feel that significant, that power and that control. Because we love and care about them, we feel almost compelled to help them, to sacrifice ourselves, to contribute to them, to grow the relationship, to feel significant. When they're withholding attention and affection and support that they once gave us, we can then work harder to try and get the scales balanced back, not realising that they are always going to try and pull us down while they raise themselves up. And the only time they're going to try and pull us up is if they're feeling that we might abandon them, if they haven't got other supply lined up, which is when they offer those intermittent reinforcements of the idolization stage, when they offer those future faking to distract us from the pain of the present by selling us an ideal dream of the future that will not happen. And then they'll come with the false apologies or the gaslighting, so it'll be, I never said that, you must be imagining things, constantly stirring the overthinking within your mind into leading you believing that you're the one going crazy. With codependency, we can feel exhausted, and with the narcissist manipulation, they will exhaust you. It is extremely exhausting being around a narcissist. A lot of the symptoms of codependency are from the root cause that you are actually being manipulated by a narcissist. Not in all cases. This channel is about the effects of narcissistic abuse, so it's not in all cases. Narcissists fear being exposed. Who wouldn't when you're that cruel and sometimes calculated towards somebody? They, in a moment, will feel shame for their behaviour. Perhaps not all of them, it's on a spectrum, and then you've got narcissists, sociopaths, narcissistic psychopaths, so not all of them will feel that shame. The majority that do feel that shame will swiftly project those feelings of shame into those around them, creating shame in other people. They will quickly pass the blame over to other people. That codependency again, when people then work harder to please the narcissist, and the cycle keeps repeating. A narcissist does not want to be exposed. They do not want to be held accountable for their own behaviour. So one of their biggest fears is exposure. Why? They will gaslight, they will lie, they will twist the truth, they will triangulate, they will divide and conquer, they will go on a mass smear campaign, they will do all they can to paint you out to be the bad person so they can escape any form of consequences for their behaviour. Yet these are the ones that often, because they fear abandonment, will move straight on to do it to somebody else, and then move straight on to do it to someone else, and then go back to an ex, and then go, and they keep repeating this cycle. Because the majority of people are unaware, or the majority are, well, it's quite rare, well, the exes are just holding grudges. It's not grudges, it's trauma that the exes are. It's symptoms of trauma that the narcissist and their enablers and flying monkeys want other people to believe is a grudge, so that they can continue their toxic behaviour. They fear being exposed because they don't want to be humiliated for their wrongdoings, for their hurtful ways, for their faults, their flaws, their weaknesses. They don't recognise that all people have faults, flaws and weaknesses, and they often don't recognise them within themselves. They pass those over to other people. The problem is when they never work on their own, when they never learn from their mistakes, they keep making the same mistake, or the mistakes level up each and every time to the point where they can't admit for the shame of what they've actually put people through. A thing that can keep us trapped within a narcissistic relationship is partly down to our ego also, but we are more aware. A narcissist often isn't aware. With many, it is instinctive. With some, it is calculated. Our ego can keep us trapped. Our ego that we can't make it work with someone, that we can't help someone because we don't have the understanding that they don't understand on a level that we do. They're not looking for compromise. They're not looking to make it work. They're looking for control, and that is never going to be a happy place to live for us. So our ego knows we are worried about fear of judgment from other people, the breakdown of a family, the fear of children being in a single parent household, the fear of finances, especially when you've got financial abuse. There is so many fears that keep people locked in a toxic relationship, but often we are aware of these fears. It's about breaking them down step by step so that we can overcome those fears. When we've got them all overthinking, ruminating about them all in our head at once, we become overwhelmed, we become more anxious. The less we take action, the more we can begin to break them down and deal with them in small chunk-sized pieces and step over each one at a time. Leaving becomes a lot easier. And it can also be our ego protecting us from the shame, from the humiliation, from distress, from the fact that we've been duped, we've been conned, that we've accepted foolish behaviour. There's nothing wrong with being kind, there's nothing wrong with being caring, and there's nothing wrong with not understanding when someone is psychologically manipulating you into not understanding. You are far from alone, and narcissistic people, con artists, dupe the most intelligent people. They often go for people who have characteristics or traits that they can exploit. So if you are trusting, you don't always attract a trusting person. You can attract someone that's very untrustworthy, that wants to exploit you for your trusting behaviour. If you are caring, you don't always attract a caring person. You can attract someone who wants to exploit you, knowing that you will forgive them for the mistakes they make. If you are loyal, you don't always attract loyal people. You can attract people who want to exploit you for your loyalty, knowing that they will be able to get away with their behaviour more because you will stay loyal to them. Your loyalty will keep you trapped in some situations that your common sense should remove you from. When your common sense and your instincts are trying to tell you something, but then you've got the very person who mirrored you, idolised you, loved bombed you, seemingly cared for you, matched all your likes for likes, you've got that emotional connection, you've got that trauma bond, you're being gaslighted, you're being blamed, you're getting all the negatives of them projected into you. You can't see what your common sense and your instincts are telling you because you're not aware of what is actually happening. Once aware, it's far easier to step out of the situation. Even then, when you meet someone new, it's far easier to step out of the situation. You can recognise what's happening. When you're actually in the relationship, there's so many things going on, it is difficult to step away. However, it is always possible. It's just finding the right way for you. Another thing a narcissist fears is being ignored by people. All comes down to their supply. They're seeking excessive attention, preoccupied with the ideal, their grandiosity, their arrogance, the belief that they are special. 5 traits of the actual disorder. They fear being ignored by people because this criticises the narcissist as who they are as a person. Why they will either go over the top to gain attention, or they will go for the passive aggressive sulks and manipulation to get attention. Why they can fall silent on us and refuse to communicate or acknowledge us because they fear it, so they know it hurts when people ignore them. Which is why if you're worried about no contact, but you're also in that stage of seeking revenge, no contact is the way to go, in a nice way, because you're doing that to release them and let them live their life, and release yourself and let you live your life. But they do the silent treatment, and there's nothing wrong with letting manipulative people go. That's not to be manipulative, that's healthy, that's for your own sanity. So with a narcissist, they fear being ignored, which is why they use the silent treatment against other people. They know it gets people. Some narcissistic people, if they have supply of other people around them, they can handle being ignored by a person. They can also in some way fool themselves. If they've used the silent treatment against you and you've been the one to beg and plead and make it up to them, they can also just think, they're just trying it on. At some point, I know at some point they're going to come and talk to me. So that's why some narcissists will not hoover, because their ego will not allow them to, because they think that you will be the one that will break first. And often we are, which is why we have to learn not to, so that they can go and do whatever they do. We can create more awareness so that people don't get pulled into a narcissist games. Whatever they are doing is a game to serve themselves. We can fear being ignored because life is about communication, understanding, emotional connections, object consistency, which is something that we often have. So when we've got that emotional connection with somebody, if there's drama or conflict or distance, we still care about that person. Narcissistic people are often lacking in this. So when there is drama, conflict or distance, they simply no longer care. They lack the empathy to care. It's one of the traits of the disorder, a lack of empathy. We can then, they fear being ignored, and they fear being abandoned. We can fear being alone, and most often a narcissist will have isolated us from all support through divide and conquer or triangulation. If they've not managed it through that, due to things like anxiety, CPTSD, codependency, we can isolate ourselves because we're feeling misunderstood. We fear speaking out. We're fearing judge. One of the reasons why we don't like to leave a toxic relationship is that fear of judgment, that fear of speaking out, that fear of being misunderstood by people, which can keep us locked in a situation way longer than we ever should be. We fear our vulnerabilities being exposed because the very person we told all our vulnerabilities to used each and every one against us to pick us apart and pull us down so they could further their control. We all have faults, we all have flaws, we all have weaknesses. We can own ours. Narcissistic people pass theirs on. So quite often you end up with your own and the narcissist who try and sift through and work out that's on them, that's on me, that's on them. We take all the blame from the narcissist of anything that goes wrong. The narcissist takes the credit for anything that goes right. This is when we have to sit down, and it's not to blame somebody else, because a lot of people don't like blaming it all on one person. Narcissistic people like blaming it all on other people. So it's not to blame it all then, it's to be accountable for your own behaviour and pass the blame back to the rightful owner for theirs, so that you can work through the things that you need to work on and stop working on things that is nothing to do with you. That's what they need to work on. And if they don't want to work on it, it's not up to us to help them. That's up to them. A lot of the difference between a narcissist behaviour and someone who's not on the disorder is the intent behind the behaviour, the intentions behind their behaviour and the intentions behind your behaviour. With good intentions, there is no wrong way and no right way to live your life. There is only your way. With a narcissist, the traits of their disorder, their sense of entitlement, their arrogance, the fact they want to exploit people, the willingness to exploit people, their grandiosity, the belief that they are superior, their envy, their lack of empathy to care for other people, their preoccupation with creating the ideal, their requirement for excessive attention, and the belief that they are special means their intentions are not coming from a genuine, kind-hearted place. Their intentions are coming from, I envy this, I seek to have this, or I seek to destroy this. I will exploit you to get my needs met, and I don't have the empathy to care for how that affects you. Your intentions are often, how can I help this person? How can I make things better? How can I make things right? How can I communicate? So although yes, we can have similar patterns of behaviour when we've been around narcissistic people, a bit like negativity breeds negativity. We have to surround ourselves by the right people, because the wrong people will drag us down. Still, your intentions, your true intentions will be there behind. So the difference between the behaviours is the intentions, the intent behind the behaviour. Once out of a relationship, a narcissist will often say that people are obsessed or holding a grudge or wanting to seek revenge. And obsessions can be formed out of hate or out of love. With a narcissist, they are projecting that other people are obsessed, because the narcissist is obsessed, but they come from a place of hatred. So if a narcissist is saying that someone is wanting revenge on someone, it's often the narcissist that's seeking that revenge. If a narcissist is saying that someone's holding a grudge, it's often the narcissist themselves that's holding a grudge. Then we can also have passion, so a compelling emotion. Again, can be created through hate or through love. So a narcissist can seek revenge with an obsession or a passion. They can have a compelling desire to bring people down. Narcissistic people do often go around saying that people are obsessed with them or holding a grudge against them, when it's actually trauma that people are trying to sift their way through and sort out what trauma belongs to them, what trauma belongs to the narcissist, to try and grab hold of those little blocks to piece their life back together and sift through what's no longer required within their life to overcome the trauma. When it comes to our fears, the first thing we have to do is safely step out of what we believe is our comfort zone. When our comfort zone is no longer comfortable, we have to find a safe way out. And with narcissistic people, it's on a spectrum. Some are on a higher level than others, so always find a safe way out. I do not recommend telling them in person. We can feel like it's polite to have the conversation. We can also feel like, well, if we just have the conversation, they might wake up and smell the coffee. That's not going to happen with a narcissist. They're going to take it as criticism. People, it's difficult enough in a healthy relationship separating. With a narcissist who fears abandonment, with a lack of empathy, you need to do it carefully, but there is always a way. It is possible. Once out of the situation, it is sifting through the things, the anxiety and the CPTSD that you need to work on, and the anxiety and CPTSD that was placed in you by the narcissist that is not yours. So owning your own, recognizing your triggers, breaking them down and working through them one by one. Some people can do this by themselves, some people need a friend, some people do need therapists. Finding a therapist that understands you. And then finding hobbies, finding different hobbies, getting yourself doing the things that you want to do so you can find your passion out of love. So you've got an enthusiasm to do something, so you've got a desire to get yourself out of bed in the morning to do something that you really enjoy doing for you. Some people say when you find the thing that you love doing in life, you never have to work a day again. Whereas actually you end up working more, not in a bad way, but because you are passionate and you enjoy doing. It's hard work when you don't enjoy doing something. When you enjoy doing something, you can get carried away and the time just passes by. So finding something that you love doing, that you are passionate about, to give you that boost in life, to give you that enthusiasm to go again. Again, once out of a narcissistic relationship, sometimes one of the best places to start, after no contact if that's possible, is by doing all the things that the narcissist didn't allow you to do or stopped you from doing. Creating who you are as a person again, and then going from there. Once you've started finding your passion, your enthusiasm, you can then start building on your confidence. You can start then working on overcoming your fears, because sometimes to overcome a fear, we have to step straight over it. With a narcissist, we have to step over it safely, but with fear, we do have to step over them. If anyone has any advice of the most important thing they did to safely get away from a narcissistic relationship, please add that into the comments, because that is vital information. Then if anyone has any advice on what helped them overcome their trauma or their fears, please also add that in the comments to help others. I shall do a playlist. Title it The Narcissist and I. I'll put a playlist in, and I'll add this video and the trauma bond and anxiety and shadow side and CPTSD, codependency, all those sorts of things, to try and gain, they are theories and perspectives, but gain those different theories and perspectives. And some are information that I'll have heard from somewhere, or information I've put my own theory or perspective on, but just so that you can try and break things down and work things out for yourself and what suits you as a person. Remember, with good intentions, there's no wrong way or right way to live your life. I shall also add some of those videos in the description. So I hope everyone has an amazing day. Go out there and create the day that you deserve for you. Thank you very much for listening. Bye.